Massei. In the Torah portion of Massei, we read about the death of Aharon, the accidental murderer, the cities of refuge, the blood avenger, and the death of the high priest. While these things might seem unrelated to each other, they all point towards the Messiah and the world to come. It says in Numbers 33 verses 37 through 39, "They journeyed from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor, at the edge of the land of Edom. Then Aharon the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord, and died there in the 40th year after the sons of Israel had come from the land of Egypt, on the first day in the 5th month. Aharon was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor." This is the second time we hear of Aharon's death, and we are given the additional detail of the day and the month in which he died. This is significant, as no other forefather or righteous person has had their death recorded with the exact day and month, and on top of this, Aharon's death was recorded twice. The commentary Niflaot Mitortecha says about this passage, "Who can perceive anything but the wondrous hand of providence in this?" The day of Aharon's death is the same day that we remember the destruction of the first and second temples. Niflaot Mitortecha states, "The priesthood and the temple are like twins born from the same womb. Thus it is written in the Torah that Aharon died on the first day of the 5th month, the beginning of the month of Av, to tell us that in this month the temple will be destroyed and the priesthood will perish until the ultimate restoration." The story of the death of Aharon alludes to the destruction of the 2 temples and the nullification of the priestly service until the coming of Messiah, our righteousness. It says in Numbers 35 verse 12, "The cities shall be to you as a refuge from the avenger, so that the manslayer will not die until he stands before the congregation for trial." The cities of refuge built off the idea of a blood avenger, the next of kin of the one who was murdered, who will take revenge on the murderer. In places where the law doesn't have much power, the concept of the blood avenger helped keep homicide low. The Torah took the blood avenger and added onto it the cities of refuge, so that a murderer could survive long enough to be tried by a court. The blood avenger in the Torah is referred to as Goel Hadam, which can be translated to Redeemer of the Blood. The fact that the blood avenger wasn't completely abolished in the Torah indicates that vengeance is part of the biblical concept of redemption. When the murderer came to the city of refuge, they would be tried in court. If they were found guilty of intentional murder, they would be handed over to the avenger. If it was found that they had accidentally murdered someone, they could gain permanent safety within the city of refuge. Then it says in Numbers 35, verses 26 through 28, "But if the manslayer at any time goes beyond the border of his city of refuge to which he may flee, the blood avenger finds him outside the border of his city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, he will not be guilty of blood, because he should have remained in his city of refuge." This passage can be related to the Messiah. Messiah gives us a city of refuge from the consequences of our sin. We are pursued by these consequences like a blood avenger, and eventually death will come to us. Then the Messiah will grant us a different asylum within the grace of God, and as long as we remain within that grace, we will not have to fear the one who seeks to ruin us. It says in Numbers 35 verse 19, "The blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. He shall put him to death when he meets him." The Messiah is the Redeemer of Israel, just as Moshe, the first Redeemer, was a part in the deaths of Israel's prosecutors. So too the second Redeemer will come again and take the lives of those who have spilled Jewish blood. The idea of the Messiah being a blood avenger for the people of Israel is a very ancient and Jewish thought, and there are several Bible verses that back up this idea. Psalms 9 verse 13 talks about the blood avenger when it says, "He who requires blood remembers them. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted." Revelation 6 verse 10 through 11 talks about the souls of the martyrs crying out for vengeance. "How long, O Lord, holy and true, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" And they were told that they should rest for a little while longer, until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren, who were to be killed even as they had been, would be completed also. Psalm 79 verse 10 says, "Why should the nations say, 'Where is their God?' Let there be known among the nations in our sight, vengeance for the blood of your servants which has been shed." It also says in Isaiah 63 verse 3 through 4, "I have trodden the wine trough alone, and from the peoples there was no man with me. I also trod them in my anger, and trampled them in my wrath, and their lifeblood is sprinkled on my garments, and I stained all my raiment, for the day of vengeance was in my heart, and my year of redemption has come." In Deuteronomy 32 verse 35, God says, "Vengeance is mine, and retribution." Finally, it says in Isaiah 35 verse 4, "Take courage, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. The recompense of God will come, but he will save you." It says in Numbers 35 verse 28, "He should have remained in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer shall return to the land of his possession." The death of the high priest negates the claim of the blood avenger and allows those in the city of refuge to go back home. One explanation for this chain of events is that the life of the high priest is taken instead of the life of the guilty. You could even say that the death of the high priest pay off the debt of the man's sin. This is exactly what we and the first disciples of Yeshua believed, that the death of our heavenly high priest erased the debt of our sin. In the Torah portion of Massei, we learn about how the recording of the death of Aharon points towards the destruction of the two temples. We also learn about how the Messiah is found in the city of refuge, the blood avenger, and also the high priest.